Welcome to the Rising for Women podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Merlo-Booth, and I believe the world will be changed for women when we change how we walk in it. So each week, we're going to have hard conversations. We're going to explore new options. Some of them are going to be hard options, and we're going to have some real, straight talk. We're going to do that because I have faith that women can handle it. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Rising Podcast for Women. I'm Lisa Merlo-Booth, and joining me today are Arlene Newman and Dee Marcotte. Thank you, guys. I love
Hello, everybody. Hi.
So this episode of the podcast, what we're going to be talking about is we are going to be talking about the intersection of sexism, patriarchy, and misogyny, and kind of how all of those keep women down and make it more difficult for us to really rise with a ground of powerful strength. And we're also going to talk a little bit about gender socialization and how that plays in as well. And kind of all of these become a straitjacket for us. And I would say, for not just women, I would say for young girls from a young age, we get into this straitjacket, and it makes it really difficult for women to step up. Mm-hmm. All right. Mm-hmm. So, welcome to the show. And here we go. So Dee and Arlene, I just thought I would start with throwing out some definitions, just so everybody who's watching and listening to us, is on the same page in terms of the definitions that we're using. So the first one is sexism. Sexism is prejudice against women solely on the basis of their sex. Patriarchy is a social system in which men hold primary power and predominate in roles of political leadership, moral authority, social privilege, and control of property. Misogyny is the dislike of, contempt for, or ingrained prejudice against women. But I was saying before we started recording this, there's an author of the book Down Girl, The Logic of Misogyny, and her name is Kate Mann. And she describes misogyny as social systems or environments where women face hostility and hatred because they're women in a man's world. And she states that sexism supports patriarchy while misogyny enforces it. So I thought, how interesting. So let's kind of riff on that a little bit. When you hear some of those, and the idea that sexism supports patriarchy and misogyny enforces it. What do you think about that?
I agree. Mm-hmm. I mean, it sounds absolutely right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So sexism is the idea that women aren't capable because of their sex. They're not as good as men because of their sex. They should be, they should be kind and loving and nurturing to people. And so that supports patriarchy very much. It keeps women in our places. It keeps girls in their places. Don't get too big. Don't get too loud. Don't try to take men on or boys on in any way. Just, be that good little girl, so to speak. And then the misogyny is where once women start stepping out of that little zone, that's where it's like, who the hell do you think you are? And in particular, if women start stepping out of that zone, trying to become the CEO of a company, and men start to see that as women taking men's jobs, or a woman tries to become the president of the United States and she's trying to, kind of be the leader in a man's world, so to speak, that's where misogyny comes in and enforces patriarchy, right? It's like, oh no, you don't play that. Who the hell do you think you are to be doing that? What do you guys think about that?
Well, it's, in some ways it's shocking. I mean, it's not like we don't know that, but when you put it together that way, it's sort of shocking. It's like, here is a web that all of these things just make sure that it holds up the patriarchy.
Yeah.
And the whole idea that which has been going on for years. We were talking a little bit earlier about the idea that, like, since the 17th century, the idea that women are, there's something wrong with them if they're not being obedient, that they were in fact considered property, and you couldn't go outside of that, and the dismissal of anything that is the female, the feminine, the nurturing. It's kind of like, you should be that, but being that means you're dismissed. You're not considered important. You're not.
You're less than. You're less than. You have less value. You have less worth. You have less power. You have less of everything.
Right.
Yeah.
And the misogyny piece, where it's kind of like you said, you try to step out of that at all, and then Trump, not that many months ago, called Hillary Clinton a snake. That's so disgusting. But there's misogyny for you, keeping up patriarchy.
Absolutely. It's interesting, Arlene, when you were just saying, you're less than, and on this podcast, what we're often talking about is, how are women showing up in ways that aren't serving us? And when you talk about, you feel less than, and you're taught that you're less than, and so many systems are set up to show you that you're less than, of course, you're going to step into the world doubting yourself and wondering if you really know the answers. And I see this in my practice all the time. I see it out in the world all the time, where women are asking men for answers that they have themselves, but they're like, well, maybe I'm not quite wrong. I'm not quite right on this. What do you think? And then what goes? They're like, oh yeah, okay. That whole idea of constantly being taught, and in 1,000 ways, that we're not as important as men, we're not as valuable, we're not as worthy, that plays out in our actions in so many ways. So let's just riff a little bit. What are some of the ways that you see women showing up, and young girls, not just women, females, showing up in our world, that largely because of these kind of weights on our ankles, so to speak? What do you see in your practices with women? What are they doing that, is playing into the patriarchy and misogyny and sexism?
I think one part is this idea of, I can't give up. Like, it'll be all my fault if the family falls apart. Like, if I want to leave a job, or I want to leave a marriage, or anything, it's kind of like, no, I'm not sure I've done everything. And it's kind of like, they've done everything, stood on their head and spit quarters, and it still is, it's your fault, you don't know what you're talking about. Something about the woman is at fault, not the man, in a heterosexual relationship.
What I see a lot is women seeing certain behaviors with their male partners. They are able to see it, but they don't feel confident to speak up about it. They will swallow it. They are very afraid of their own aggressive feelings, and they will easily turn that against themselves. It goes into self-doubt, and fear of being left if they are to speak up, especially if they feel dependent for their male partner for financial support or support of the family with the children. They will just they will swallow their angry feelings, even though they can see that what's happening is really not okay with them.
Yeah, that's interesting. I also see, I see a lot of women questioning themselves, wondering if what they think isn't okay really isn't okay. Like they're like,
Right.
I don't know, like, you know,
Right.
I don't know, do other, people talk to women, talk to their partners like this? Is this normal in marriages? I guess everybody fights, right? And so they start to doubt themselves, especially if their partner says, oh, you're too sensitive, you're so hysterical, you don't know what you're talking about. And instead of the women being like, whoa, stop. That is like, no, I'm not hysterical. I know exactly what I'm talking about. And this is what's happening and it's not okay with me. They start being like, maybe he's right. I wonder if I am right. Huh.
That's exactly what I see. That's exactly what I don't know too many women who have not been coached to do otherwise, do what you just said they could do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I also see this in gay relationships, in lesbian relationships, when one woman tends to be more of, what we call the blatant, one woman tends to be much more reactive or has more of a fiery temper. I do see her gay partner will start questioning herself and kind of doing a one down thing out of fear, or, when her reactive partner is so dismissive of what she's saying, she starts to her vision gets cloudy. She starts to wonder, maybe I'm not seeing it right. Maybe she's right, And I certainly see this in heterosexual couples all the time, and way more often are the women are the ones questioning themselves. Seldom do I see the men questioning what they're going on. The men might duck from a reactive woman, but they're not questioning, whether they're seeing it right. Yeah.
They're also not questioning their own behavior.
Right. Yeah. Women, that's so true. In my practice, and I'm sure in yours, women are questioning their behaviors all the time. All the time.
All the time. All the time.
Yes.
Oh,
Am I
self-doubt.
Say that again, Arlene?
Self-doubt. The self-doubt is through the roof.
Yeah. And guilt. Am I a good enough mother? I should have done it different. I should have done it better. Am I a good enough wife? I guess I haven't been kind of, all these constant checking on themselves.
And all of that really undermines your confidence.
Yeah.
And I don't know that women are aware of how that kind of self-doubt and self-questioning, how that really little by little wears them down.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think it does happen. I mean, like you were talking about girls, that it happens in school, where if it's science class, teachers call in the boys.
Yes.
More than they call in girls. If there's, generally if there's boys in the group at school, the boys will take over the discussion or the conversation that's supposed to happen, and the girls just shut up. Right. So it gets reinforced in so many ways, kind of thing, as well as whatever they see happening at home.
Yeah, and it's hard too, because our world is set up in such a way that men are more worthy, boys are more worthy, and girls' worth, and we've said this in many of our shows, that the worth of girls is often tied into the attention of men and boys. And so you have these girls in their classrooms, many young girls dummy themselves down because they don't want to be a show off to the boys. They don't want to seem like they're smarter or they're bigger or whatever. They don't want the boys to be upset with them when they're dating or they're liking a boy. It's really about, it's so much about, am I enough for him? Does he think I'm cute? Does he like me? It's not at all. Is he a good guy? Does he treat me well? Do I like how he is with other people? It's really just, do I measure up? Do I measure up? Do I measure up? Do I measure up? And
do I have to have sex just so that he'll stay.
Just so I'll stay.
Because that other idea, I think there's another idea in a lot of what we've talked about here, that you are nothing without a man.
Yes.
Like that is so pervasive. And I think still today.
That's so true. And I have a lot of, and I've said this too before, a lot of women who are dating, and watching them date is so hard. It's so hard to watch. It's like, you see like these glaring red flags, and I'm like, what are you doing? And she's like, well, it's better than being alone. And actually, but he's kind of nice over here. And I know that was kind of a jerky thing, but he didn't really mean it. And he said he's sorry, or, well, he was drinking, like all these things. Or they go in and they want exclusivity, but they know that if they're either afraid that if they ask him, the guy's going to leave them, or there's this big, this is crazy. If you like search on dating right now, like when should you sleep with the person, right? And they're saying by the third date. So I had this client, and she was saying that, you know, she went out on a date, and the guy's like, well, you know what date this is date number 3, you know that, right? And she like didn't understand what he was saying, and she went back and she read up about it, and I was like, oh my gosh. And so women are feeling like the pressure. I don't want to be a prude. I don't want to be what's it called, frigid. I don't want to be right. And so they are ignoring what they want and what they need, and they're sacrificing themselves just so that they can keep this guy or potentially have this guy. And it's so sad. It's just another example of women putting the worth of men above their own, making decisions out of that one down place, and then paying for it.
I think it's even more than that. I think it's the whole idea of the patriarchy is built on the idea that the only thing women are good for is sex.
Yeah.
And in that, you're talking about both your client and that guy are both like right smack dab in the middle of the patriarchal web. And that's the place where as women, we buy into it.
Yeah. That's so sad.
It's very sad.
No, it's beyond sad. To me, it feels really like a catastrophe that we're living this life, and how hard it is to get out of it, both externally, how to change the external systems, and how to change the way we see ourselves, the way we fall into it. We've bought into it. We have bought into it on so many levels from such an early age.
Why? Why are we doing this? Why have we bought into it?
Well, I think if you're told that you're not worth very much and the man is worth everything, then in order for you to survive, I think on a very basic level, it's about survival. I need a man to survive because I'm not going to be able to make it on my own. Socially, financially, emotionally. Like what did you say before that? You're nothing without a man.
Yeah.
So getting that man, capturing that man, you have to do everything that you can if you don't feel that you can really make it in the world on your own. And I think you add into that being a mother and wanting to be a stay-at-home mom. How do you do that?
Yeah, I think that also sort of that sense of you have to lose yourself, especially if you're a stay-at-home mom. I mean, it's sort of like, oh, well, then that's all you do. Like you don't become, I'm like, you're already seen as a second-class citizen, and now you're really like invisible. This is just who you are now. You don't get to be a person. But I also think we're our role models.
Yeah.
I mean, pretty much, if you look at anybody in power, it's a white man, you know? So we're also getting like this is sort of the insidious in the water we drink kind of thing, where all the information we're getting is about men are in power. And I'll tell you, the other piece, the submissive piece for women, along with the objectification, I was at my nail salon and they had the YouTube videos going, and I don't really ever see them. I was amazed that in almost every single one of them, the woman had hardly any clothing on and the men were fully dressed.
Yeah.
You know, in suits and tuxedos and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like, so what kind of a message does that send?
Right.
Like, certainly they're more important. Look at how they look versus look at how she looks. So I think it's there, it's in music, it's just so many places.
And I think that this is where it gets really hard, because women are like, well, I have the right to dress however I want, and we shouldn't be slut shaming, and we shouldn't be, you know, and I can sleep with men. I have the right to be sexually free and to enjoy my sexuality. And yes, you absolutely do. And we have to start looking at what are the unconscious stuff that's going on. Why are all these women, why is it? I mean, and that's so right. Why is it that all the women who are on MTV are like half dressed, but all the men have are totally dressed? Why is it that, you know, over the years, decades, men still wear tuxedos? Women, you know, when you're on that red carpet, many of the women are like, you know, they're like have their boobs hanging out and they're like see-through dresses. You don't see men with see-through clothing. And so, yes, you have that right. And let's start examining why. Like, I think we got to slow it down and take a step back. And what is it that's leading women, so many women and young girls, where they want to, you know, like the crop tops, and they want, like, you know, to be just, you know, very sexually dressed with super short skirts. Yeah, you have the right to do that. But you don't see the boys in super short shorts. You don't see them with their penises hanging out. You don't, like, so what is that? And we really have to slow it down and stop looking at it. And this is where women don't help each other, right? So I'm sure some women are going to hear this and they're going to get angry with us, and they're going to be like, oh my gosh, you got to, you know, let women feel free everywhere. And you are free. You don't have to prove it. You don't have, there's nothing. And you do need to start examining how patriarchy and misogyny and gender socialization is all playing into keeping us down. And it does that partially through our sexuality, right? We think, oh, we want our freedom. I want the right to be more sexual and have sex, you know, be sexual with whoever I want. Do you know how that's killing us? Do you have any idea how that's, so more and more women are becoming the bachelors of yesterday. Men are psyched. Like, how is that? How, I don't see how that helps women. And many of the women that I'm talking to, they are sleeping with the men on their first date, second date, third date, not because they want to, because they feel like they have to. And that's like somehow unspoken. Like, I hear it in behind closed doors. I don't hear it with a group of women. A group of women are like, you go girl, you do this. But like in our unconscious and beyond, there's a lot of stuff that women aren't talking about and aren't saying that the three of us are privy to behind the scenes. And I think we got to look at that system has been set up, and getting that out of our head where we can actually start to believe we're worthy despite what we look like, or what we will do with a man, or how sexually we are in bed. That goes so deep. And we have kind of done a spin on it that, if anything, I think it has so harmed us. It hasn't made us freer. It has kept us more ensnared in a trap that has been put in place long, long, long ago. But you guys push back with me, fight, because, you know.
No, there's nothing to fight here. I think that it's a very superficial kind of freedom. Okay, I can wear whatever I want to wear, but why do I want to wear that?
Right.
You know, what is it really, where is it coming from? What am I trying to accomplish? I'm trying to accomplish seducing a man, being attractive to a man, and do I have to walk around half naked in order to do that? What am I saying about myself
Right.
when I do that?
It's almost like a way to say, you know, look at, see, like, I don't have a voice, so I'll do this kind of thing. But it just solidifies you not having a voice.
Right.
And
That's
then,
right.
and then makes
That's
all
right.
the other places that to take care of yourself, to advocate for yourself, you need to have a voice, and then you don't have it. Because I think that's the, you know, it's kind of like, it's not like, oh, this just sits over here. It bleeds into everything. And I hear so often women saying, well, yeah, you know, my father-in-law, my whoever, you know, uncle, says, yeah, like he gets angry, he says this, and I don't really like it, but I just let it go.
Yeah.
Like, how come you're letting that go? You know?
And what I hear from women when you ask them that is because he's going to get even more mad. It's going to cause a bigger issue, and he's not going to change anything. And why should I do that? And that is brilliant of the other people who are getting angry, because you're teaching them that their anger works. You get silent to it because you don't want to deal with the issue. So he'll shut you down, or she will shut you down, whoever's getting big with you, so that because you're too afraid, it's not going to work. And then they get to do whatever they want to do. And so, you know, and that brings me to, you know, why do women do what we do? And, you know, we've talked a lot of the, you know, many of the reasons why we do what we do. Another reason is because there's hell to pay to step out of this. Like, you know, we want to say like, oh, it sucks because if I don't sleep with him, I'm not going to, you know, he's going to leave me. And we're like, yeah, so what? Let him leave you. However, the other side of that is you're lonely, right? You're living by yourself, or you don't have somebody to spend your days with, or like that's tough. Or you speak up to your husband who's, you know, intimidating, and he gets more intimidating. There's backlash to this, you know? There's backlash to women on so many different levels. If you're the woman in the office who's daring to have a voice, you can, you know, you're putting yourself at risk, because the guys and the other women are gonna, like, they get annoyed. Who the hell does she think she is? She's, oh my gosh, there she goes again, her loud mouth. If you're a woman who gets angry, they're gonna start, you know, saying, you know, look at her, she's crazy, stay out of her way. There's backlash on every level.
It's huge. The backlash is huge. I think we just touched on the beginning of a very, very long list.
Yeah.
Of the backlash.
I was, there's an article in the New York Times, and it talked about Serena Williams is in it. And you guys were talking, you know, when she was playing her tennis match, and she got into it with the umpire. And anyway, so her quote is, if we show emotions, we're called dramatic. If we want to play against men, we're nuts. And if we dream of equal opportunity, delusional. When we stand for something, we're unhinged. When we're too good, there's something wrong with us. And if we get angry, we're hysterical, irrational, and just being crazy. All of that is the pull of patriarchy and misogyny and sexism. Stay in your lane. Be nice. Stay in this box. Don't step out, because if you step out, the world is going to call you crazy, delusional, nut, crazy woman, right? And it's like, that's it right there. That's the power. The backlash is tremendous.
Somebody in one of my groups that I run, that's an all women's group, was talking about how back in the, I don't know, 1800s, 1700s, when women would come together to support each other, they would be labeled as witches, and they would be treated, they would be burned at the stake. Women, when they try to support each other to have power, to empower themselves, talking about prices to pay.
Well, and all of these prices are simply because we're asking for accountability and respect.
Yes.
Like this isn't.
Well,
like
I
we're
don't think
asking
it's simply, I think it's that we're asking for change and we're asking for men to not be power over us.
Mhm.
And not so many men are up for that. You know, they don't want to give it up. It's very comfortable for them on so many levels.
Yeah. When you go after the power of men, which is equality, women asking to be equal absolutely is about going after the power of men. There absolutely is going to be backlash. You have to expect backlash. I actually think President Obama being president, having a black president in office, that's the backlash, right? Look where we got,
Absolutely. There's
right?
no question
And
about that at all.
if Hillary had been in office or somebody else, you know, another female gets into office, I think we're going to have the same backlash. Like there's a little, you know, piece in our a big piece in our culture, which is very much you stay where we put you. Whether that's
because
for
we
black,
like it that way, because
Yeah.
we like it and it works for us.
it works for us.
It works for us, and we're going to do everything we possibly can to make it work for us. I mean, Donald Trump, he represents that. That's what he
Oh.
does. That's what he does
Mhm.
every single moment of his life.
Absolutely.
It's good for me. I don't care who suffers.
Right.
I could care
Well,
less.
it's good for me. This is where his power comes from. And it's good for all the other white men who think like me.
Absolutely.
And we're going to keep the women in their place, and we're going to keep the poor in their place, and we're going to keep the blacks in their place. So you ride on my coattail, and we're going to keep white men in power.
That's right.
Mhm.
That's a big,
That's right.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Right. Yeah, and just
So-
the way he talks about women,
Yes.
that, you know, again, talk about modeling. I mean, like, you know, oh, I grabbed her pussy. I mean, all of this
She's a
misogynistic.
fat pig. She's, yep.
Yeah, I'm like horrible language, you know, that is always demeaning to women.
Yeah. She had blood coming out of her, whatever. Like,
Mhm.
and 53% of white women are responsible for putting this man in office. This man who is so misogynistic and so derogatory towards women.
Mhm.
It's so sad. And this is the ingrained messages. You have women protecting men all the time. All the time.
And do they need to protect the man for their own survival because they don't think that they can really function on their own, take care of themselves? Do they need to hold on to the man? Is that a big piece of it for them?
I think certainly for some women, absolutely. You know, like you said, the stay-at-home moms, the women where the husbands are making all the decisions, they take care of all the finances, they have, you know, they pay all the bills. I can't believe I still have women in my office who have no idea what the bills are, and they don't see it, and they don't know what money that is going on in their home. And that person, God forbid, he should die, or you guys get divorced, or he leaves you, or he has an affair on you. Like, you're like really trapped. And in this day and age, like, that just should not happen. And we have religions, we have churches, we have pastors, we have priests, we have, you know, who are also, you know, really very skilled at keeping women down. The men are the head of the household. This is what the Bible says. He should be the one making decisions. Like all of that. And so you're asking women to challenge so much that they've been raised in, that they've been believed, you know, that they've believed their whole lives, that they've watched their families do. And so, you know, it's
in them. It's in them. And unless we really begin to see it, what we've swallowed, what we've absorbed, we're trapped.
right. So, all right, we've talked about why we do it. We talked about what women do. And let's talk about the cost of continuing to not step up? Because we've talked about the cost of us stepping up, right? If women really step up and do it differently, there's a lot of backlash. There's a lot of cost to that. What's the cost of not doing that? What's the cost of just playing in our lane and staying nice and submissive, and don't go after men's jobs if it's too high, and women shouldn't be political leaders because that job, like, what's the cost to us not fighting for equality and really standing up to this?
We walk around feeling one down. We never realize our full potential. We never even know that we have more potential there. We walk around squashed and belittled, diminished.
Yeah, I think we also keep ourselves at risk of harm. Because if we need to stay silent, we need to stay quiet, that means that we can't find our voices in situations of sexual assault or rape, or we end up attacking other women so that we can play in the system. And when they're going outside the system, we've got to attack them. And so we kind of play with the popular boys and kind of hurt half of our gender, right? We start seeing ourselves as, we stop listening to ourselves. We lose ourselves. And with women, that plays out through depression, anorexia, food issues, you know, there's a lot of personal damage by continuing to play into the system. And we elect a man who is so horrifically dangerous to not only women, but our nation, because we keep buying into all this stuff, and we think, well, if we just play by the rules, then somehow the men will give us more power. Somehow the men will like us more. If we just play by the rules and play nice, we'll rise and we'll kill ourselves. I mean, we'll just really, it'll be the demise for all of us in so many ways.
I think it actually, and I know there's some studies about this and I don't have them right at hand, but the whole idea about how we actually get physically ill.
Yes.
Because we keep all of this inside.
Yeah.
And we're not doing anything. And so we end up with a variety of conditions that are really about our not speaking our voice. Not
Right. The body keeps the score.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Different context, but same idea. Nothing, our bodies absorb it all.
Mm-hmm.
We can kid ourselves, we can rationalize, we can look away, but our bodies contain it all.
Well, it's funny, we see this in our culture. When men are struggling, they attack others, right? They shoot
Absolutely.
they shoot up
Absolutely.
churches, they shoot up, you know,
Absolutely.
theaters, whatever. Women
shoot ourselves. We shoot ourselves.
We shoot ourselves. We shoot ourselves. Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what the hell do we do?
Well, we got a lot of work to do. We got so much work to do.
What's the solution? You know, it's all about women rising and doing so with a grounded, powerful strength. So how do we rise? How do we start tackling this?
First, be aware is always the first step. Awareness. Begin to see all of this, everything that we're talking about. Don't look away. Notice, open your eyes. Watch how the women on Fox News look. Mm-hmm. Look how they made to look.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. And stop excusing it. You were talking about that earlier, Lisa, with your clients, like, oh, but this, and he's okay here. And, you know, so the way we move along with it by saying, oh, they didn't really mean it. Oh, they were drunk. Oh, he's not like that usually. Oh, it's just a joke, or like, so all the ways we dismiss ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that we're complicit in it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So noticing that and saying, wait a minute, that's not okay.
Yeah. Notice how you feel inside. Notice your body. Check in with yourself and see how you feel when you're in situations where you're being treated with less than equal. You know, just pay attention. Don't ignore how you feel.
And how you feel when you're watching other women being treated poorly, or young girls, or high school girls, or college girls. Like, watch what it's like. Watch how it feels when you are hearing comments about their bodies and they're really sexualized. Just tune in. What does that feel like? If that were your daughter, if that were you, like, just what does it feel like? The other thing is speak to it. Say something. With Black Lives Matter, one of the big shifts is it's not enough to not be racist. You have to actually be anti-racist. And this is the same thing. It's not enough to not believe in patriarchy, or not to not like misogyny or sexism. You actually have to be anti-inequality, anti-patriarchy, anti-sexism, anti-misogyny. And so when that's happening, speak to it. Whether it's happening to you or in front of you, to somebody else, even if it's happening to a woman you don't even know, speak to it. And men, you got to do the same thing. Speak to it, address it. Don't watch it and be like, oh, I'm glad that's not happening to me.
And certainly don't join it.
Don't join it. Absolutely.
Laughing when there's a joke, like it's kind of these ways that we as women have learned to accommodate, that is playing a part in it.
Yes.
Yeah, don't be a good old boy.
Yeah, we do a lot. Yeah, that good old boy thing. I think we do a lot. Some of that's out of fear. Some of that is wanting to be like with the good old boys, but some of it is like, ha ha, oh, you're so silly. Stop, like we do that.
You're making me sick, even doing it. Mimicking makes me sick to my stomach.
Right? And it's like, notice that stuff. Notice how you do that and stop it. And then set limits. Set limits, right? Grounded, powerful strength. If somebody is, making sexual comments to you at work, you look him in the eye and say, that is sexual harassment. If you do that again, I will report you to HR, or you report him to HR right now. If you do that again to me, or I see you do that with anybody, to anybody in front of me, I will absolutely report you. Do you understand? And then move. But we got to stop like, that's so funny. And don't do that.
You say you have to stop doing that.
And
I can't take it.
And don't do the giggle and then report.
Right.
No giggling. If you don't want to tell them you're going to report, just name it. The lowest risk way to set a limit is to hold up the mirror. So that's sexual harassment. Are you aware that that's sexual harassment? Did you mean to sexually harass me? Or if you can't say all that, just say that's sexual harassment. And then you can go and report if you don't want to let them know. But don't give mixed messages. Set a limit and follow through with it. All right, so those are, anything else you guys can think of? Those are a lot of different ways women can show up differently.
First, open your eyes and see what's happening, and see the cost to you and to the people that you love. Yeah.
I love that. Watch, Dee had talked earlier about some of the videos, the music videos, watch MTV, watch the videos, watch how the men dress, watch how the women dress, watch the red carpet when you're looking at all of these award shows. Well, now they're not on, but if you're looking at past award shows, watch how the women dress, watch how the men dress. Look at decades of change in how people dress with the men and the women, and how much less clothing are men wearing today than they were 100 years ago? How much less clothing are women wearing today than they were 100 years ago? If you look at it, there is a drastic difference. Drastic.
Right. And even just movies, like how many movies have the female as the adventurer, the one who saves the day? Like we have Spider-Man and we have Batman.
Wonder Woman.
and you know,
Yes.
yeah, Wonder Woman, you know, we have like what, but still, she doesn't have as much clothes on as Superman, you know.
Right.
So it's just, you know, I'm like that, just the number of
Yes.
places where men are the action oriented and women have to be rescued. That's all patriarchy too.
Absolutely. And this is particularly true on Netflix. So Netflix and other, you know, non-regular TV channels, if you see there's sex scenes, it's always the woman is naked, or from the top up, you see her having sex and all you see is the man's butt. But the woman, you see everything. And every sex scene, that's what's happening. So why is that? What's that about? So really start paying attention. Is this really, you know, sexual freedom for women? What's going on? This
Well, I
all
think we should talk about the sexual freedom thing. I think that's a very important thing, because I think women are a little, are not really clear of what it means to be free.
right.
And
You know,
sometimes
yeah, go ahead.
no, they do things that they think are free, but free to do to be what? What's the message
Right.
that they're giving by doing it, or by dressing in a way where we're walking around half naked?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're free to do it, but what's the communication there about who they are and what they're worth?
And women, don't forget, like, part of sexual freedom is you have the freedom to say no without any repercussions. You have the freedom to choose to be exclusive. You have the freedom to choose to, like, I don't want to have sex by the third date. And if that means you're going to leave me, okay. And if more,
But that's the repercussion, Lisa. But that is the repercussion.
That
So
is
I don't
true.
think it's fair to say there are no repercussions. You have to be willing to deal with the repercussions. Yeah, you
That's
may not
true.
be wanted by this
Yes.
guy or that guy if you speak up or say no.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. So love yourself enough to be able to handle the repercussions, and don't sell yourself out because, oh no, he's gonna leave me.
That's right. Because if
Love
he's going to
yourself
leave you
enough.
for that, he's not worth having. And that's what you
Exactly.
have to know. If he's not going to be able to respect you and what you want, what kind of relationship are you going to have with this person?
Imagine if more and more women, more and more high school girls, more and more college girls were actually doing that, and they were actually deciding, no, I'm not feeling sexual. I don't want to, not ready to have sex with you yet. And they were doing it totally on their own feelings and their own, not worried about whether he's going to pressure them or not. That would shift, like, are you kidding? That would really do a tremendous shift for women and for men. And so anyway, so pay attention.
Even when you said, I'm not ready to have sex with you, even that's giving away too much. I don't know if I want to have sex with you.
Right.
Ready means I'm going to get ready. Like somehow I'm
Yeah.
not quite there yet. You
Right.
don't know. I don't know if I want to have sex with you. I barely know you.
Right. And I know I don't want to have sex with you now.
Right.
I don't know if I
do
want
know
it.
that.
Yeah. I don't know if I want it next week or next month. I don't know. But now
If ever. I don't know. I don't know how I feel that way with you. I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah. I love that. I love that.
That's great. Yeah.
Okay. So our challenge, the challenge for this show, the challenge for women, and we have a challenge for men. So the challenge for women, any of you want to take it, or do you want me to take women? You guys take men. What do you want to do?
I don't know. Just start. You
right.
start and we'll see how we take it.
So the challenge for the women from this one is first, women, recognize it, see it, pay attention to it, get conscious, notice how you feel when it happens, start having a curious eye. If you don't believe us on some of this stuff, watch the world with an open mind and really see, how are women dressing, what's going on. So that's the first thing. Just pay attention to it and catch it. The second part of your challenge is don't engage in it. Do not engage in it. Don't be complicit. Don't, badmouth women who are speaking up. don't giggle and laugh to sexual harassment. Just don't engage in it. And then the final part to that is speak to it, address it. It's not enough to be not racist. You have to be anti-racist. It's not enough to be not, you know, I'm for equality. You have to be anti-inequality and anti-sexism and misogyny.
And notice if you have trouble doing any of those things. Notice your own reactions. Notice if you feel afraid. Notice if you want to say something, but you feel too afraid to say something.
Yeah.
Notice if you're afraid to say no. Notice that.
And don't beat yourself up. Just notice.
And get help. And talk to people that you trust to help support you.
Right. Love that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the challenge for men.
Well, what I remember we talked about was that men also have to get aware of it.
Yeah.
They have to start seeing it and recognizing when that's actually going on. And the second piece being speaking to it, like to speak up as a male ally to say, that's not okay, or that's really demeaning, or that's sexist, or something. But
You know, I think there's a step even before that for a lot of men, which I actually hate saying this, but I think it's true. I think men have to put themselves in the women's shoes.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of men, they're not aware because they really lack the level of empathy that's needed and that needs to be developed. So I think the first step is put yourself in the woman's shoes. See how you would feel if that was you being spoken to that way or being treated that way.
Yeah. Stop dismissing women's experience.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And their words and their feelings and their, you know, yeah. Yeah, so, okay, notice it, pay attention, you know, put yourself in and notice not only it from other people, but yourself. Notice how many sexist jokes are you saying? How many times are you coming into work and are you commenting on, you know, at some female's, you know, body parts, or how her ass looks, or, you know, all that kind of stuff. How many times are you just kind of going along to get along with the boys because you don't want to, whatever, I don't know, you think it's funny, or you want to, you know, have a good time. But pay attention to that and then speak to it.
When you don't like something that happened between you and a woman, how often do you then label and characterize her rather than deal with how you feel?
Love
whether
that.
You feel threatened, whether you feel insecure, whether you feel competitive or less than. See how you deal with it as a man. See if you can own up to those feelings, or do you then make her into less than?
Love that. You know, that just made me think of paying attention to your entitlement around women. What, you know, do you think you're entitled, if you're married, do you think you're entitled to have sex whenever you want? Do you think she owes you? Do you think if you're dating, you're entitled to sleep, if you pay for her, you know, dinner, that she has
Right.
to, you know, sleep with you? Pay attention to your entitlement.
It's a good one.
So there you go, men. There's your challenge. Women,
Yeah.
there's your challenge. We would love to hear comments, questions. In particular, we'd love to hear if you actually do these challenges and you're noticing things. Give us feedback. Like, let us know. Put comments down underneath, and put comments. Or you can also go to my Facebook page, The Rising for Women, or lisamerlo.com. There's lots of different places, but go to the comment section and tell us, what do you think and what was it like? How hard was this? Or how easy was it? So we'd love to hear from you, and best of luck over these, you know, the next 3 weeks, and let's see how it goes. Let's start changing the tides for women.
Yay!
Yes.
Let's do it.
All right. Thank you again for joining us this week. And always remember, you have the power to change the world for women by changing how you walk in it. I challenge you to choose one way to stand in your grounded, powerful strength this week and be part of the ripple of change.